Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Cerberus again, the top tier of this new Commonwealth cruiser line. I've played it quite a bit, and I have some very good games in this ship now to show you. I want to talk about why I think this is just a mediocre to bad ship, even though I've had some really strong games. This, of course, is one of the new ships along the Commonwealth line. The features, of course, are this crawling smoke, combined with a submarine surveillance consumable, allowing this ship to be a little bit different from other ships in this game. However, you are a heavy cruiser as far as your guns are concerned. It's just got light cruiser armor, so it is very squishy. This ship also doesn't really have much as far as dealing with destroyers and cap control, so you're going to want to get closer to caps and then use this smoke to at least be able to stay there and apply pressure. In this case though, it's looking like a bit of a stalemate at A, so I'm going to go over towards the C cap. It's going to take me a long time to do so, as this ship is not very fast. But we do want to be dealing with enemies that are pushing into us. That's the whole idea here. This is more of a farming cruiser, not a cap controller. And like I said, you can do it, you just need to be using that smoke to stay somewhat close to the caps and have someone else spot for you. But this ship really is going to shine when people are pushing into. Specifically battleships is what we're looking for. But even against some cruisers, we can get some nice HE salvos into them. I don't trust the AP at all on this ship, and you're going to see why in a future clip, but that's why I'm just spamming HE. I think this is just a pure HE spammer, and we have a decent reload, decent DPM for 203s, combined with a smoke, means this ship can farm reasonably well. Our range is decent at 18 kilometers. I figured out why there was that penalty, and that we saw in a few of the first impressions videos. This ship is getting nerfed, actually, on release to this 18 kilometers of gun range. It shows up in-game as having this 18 kilometers of range for me to play. It just, for some reason in port, wants to show 18 and a half, something like that. So just know that that will be the experience you'll have if you're going to get this ship, and I played with that. So that's nice to see that they are doing that, although I'm not sure why our internal CC ship testing document or whatever didn't say it was needing changes. I don't know. It wasn't being updated, unfortunately, so I missed that. I apologize. But on to this game. We have 85k damage here, and a Montana and a Yoshino pushing into us. GK smartly decided to hide behind an island from us. That's going to be a theme for this ship, is you're going to have people that see you smoke up and start to HE spam them, and they're going to run away. They're going to try and hide in islands, because this is a long smoke, and it's a lot of HE pressure with a 20% fire chance on 12 203s, and a decent reload here means you're going to light a lot of fires. A lot of our damage is actually coming from fires on battleships, but the alpha damage is nice too. Unlike a lot of the smoke cruisers in this game that have smaller caliber guns, 150 or even lower, 127-ish, somewhere in the DD caliber, the 203s pen 32 millimeters of armor, so that allows us to actually do some really nice alpha damage as well, on top of all these fires. This smoke is limited, of course, to being around a quarter speed. That's where you see me just always moving at a quarter speed for the most part in this smoke. That's how you're going to want to use it. At least that way you can move slightly, and blind fires will be less likely. I talked about in the original video of this ship that nobody really shot at me, and I found it to be a little surprising, and that once people know that this ship is squishy, you're going to get shot at a lot more. And I found that certainly this week playing it. It's a very squishy ship. It is shocking, actually. It is so bad when it comes to armor. The guns are good. The damage output is good, but this ship has no armor. It is gigantic in the water. Someone in my Twitch chat mentioned that it's almost like a cruiser Vermont with how high it sits out of the water. And I kind of agree with them, honestly. Just doesn't even have the armor like Vermont at least does have some armor there. It's a big target to hit, but it has some armor to shatter some shells. This ship, you're getting full penned everywhere by HE. I have not been hit by a Colombo Sap Salvo yet, but I am terrified of it. Because we don't actually have a lot of HP to start with. 47k HP for a tier 10 heavy cruiser is not a lot. Especially one that is so much bigger than we see on a lot of other heavy cruisers at this tier. I know it's not exactly a fair comparison, but Petro is like a quarter of the height in the water. Yeah. But, you know, that's a Petro. That one just needs to stay OP or something, right? Anyways, this Monty here has certainly damage controlled. He even ate a torpedo. I found the torpedoes to be rather useless on this ship for the most part. There's just not enough of them to really be going for them as far as damage, and oftentimes people aren't going to push into you when you're kiting them like this, so they're often just not in range of your smoke HE spam. In this case, we did land a torp, which is nice. I guess you can use it around islands as more of defensive torps. That's really a good use for them, I suppose, but just really spamming them, and let's say you're used to playing a Brisbane, for example, and you're liking that torpedo playstyle, you don't really have that option here as much. It's also a very, very clumsy ship. It's terribly slow to accelerate, and its rudder shift is awful as well. So on top of being gigantic and poor maneuverability, low HP means you die very quickly in this ship. I think that's going to be a major concern here. I'm talking so negatively about this ship because this game is about to give us a ton of damage, okay? That is 4 permanent fires on a Montana. He's damage controlled. He cannot get rid of these. Our damage is good. Our fire chance is amazing. You're going to see a ton of examples where we just absolutely murder battleships for free. It's crazy. But you do need to be very, very careful about the positioning of this ship. Yoshino as well, pushing into us here, is a nice target. He's a pretty big cruiser as well. And our HE is going to do some really nice things. Monty does shoot for us. As you can see, the distance here is 16-ish kilometers. So we are getting close to the end of our range, but not enough that I would want to run range mod. I think running reload mod is rather comfortable in this ship, at least for the most part, and that allows us to get another 2 fires. Pretty much right after he damage controlled. He finally got his damage control back for those 4 initial ones. It's pretty nice and consistent as far as lighting fires. A lot of people were surprised in the chat while I was playing this ship at how many fires we got so consistently. And that's just down to the reload here being so good relative to 12-203s. A Zhao, for example, gets around, what, a 12 to 13 second reload, depending on the build you have. And this ship can get under 10 seconds very, very easily. And with AR here a little bit, we're around an 8-second reload with 12-203s with similar fire chance. That's why it seems so good. But it's way squishier than Zhao. There's a lot of things that make Zhao a lot better than this ship, in my opinion. I haven't talked about it yet, but turret traverse is also a major issue for this ship. It is so slow. It's so slow turret traverse-wise. And here I didn't really consider if I wanted to kite or not, but I eventually decided to turn in here, deciding to push, and we eat 6,000 damage from his HE. HE absolutely slaps this thing. So battleship overmatch, really going to kill this fast, but also HE is just dreadful to deal with. He swaps to the AP though. I don't think he's going to overmatch through our bow, so we're not too worried as long as we stay angled. And that's another kill. That's 240,000 damage already. And that is, maybe took a little while, I suppose, but that's pretty good damage output, especially for a ship that I haven't played that much, you know? It's pretty solid. Now this St. Louis here is kiting away. This game is still very close. This is a very long game that went right down to the wire here. We like to see those games. They don't always happen, of course. Blowout's pretty common, but nice to see a close game here. Another weakness of the ship is the AA, and this is so sad. It's a tier 8 carrier, right? It's a Yorktown. It's one of the new ones, so of course it's probably tuned up a little bit compared to the other tier 8s, but still, it is laughably bad at AA, because it's a tier 8, man. Against tier 10 AA, it's so, so sad. There's a lot of weaknesses here. I think, really, if I had to say, the only high point is these guns, as far as their fire chance and decent reload is concerned. They don't have the best shell velocity, and certainly not the best dispersion. I found the dispersion to be really, really, really frustrating to deal with as well. As soon as we're not shooting at battleships, it's really difficult to get consistent damage, especially on cruisers, smaller cruisers. It hurts when your salvos are missing around targets a lot. Less so here. The St. Louis is dodging well at range, but there'll be times where we're in this video where we're shooting at closer range targets, closer range cruisers, where our salvos are just landing on all around ships, and then they're doing 5,000 to 8,000 damage HE salvos into us back, because it's almost impossible to miss this ship. Keep in mind, we have good damage here, okay? I don't know if this ship is bad necessarily, because I did have a few good damage games, but there's just so many weak points to this ship. So many. Look at this AA, man. These are tier 8 fighter planes. And we're barely shooting them down. It is so sad. And at the end of this, like, we get a few plane kills here, but most of them are the fighters. And so it's just very useless AA damage. But we do find this Yorktown. We're not going to swap to AP here. I already made that mistake without realizing that this ship has no citadel. Yorktown literally does not have a citadel. It is 2 or 3 decks below water. You can't hit it. So I found that out the hard way in game. So definitely never shooting AP at a Yorktown ever again. And our Torps are able to get them. So that's nice. 300k damage. 300k! And I'm not thinking this ship is good. We got to get into the weaknesses now. So that's our good game. That's our full good game that I have to show you. Let's talk about some of the weaknesses. There is one more good game, though. Don't worry. But here we go. We got ourselves a Worcester. This is a light cruiser, tier 10, at 7 kilometers, about to go broadside to us. This is so sad. This is just so sad. Also, most of the damage we take here is from Worcester. There's only one salvo from the Baltimore that hits us here. Every other point of damage we're eating here is Worcester HE DPM. And we're getting 2 citadels per salvo here. Look at, he's out damaging us. He's broadside tanking our AP, and he's out DPMing us with his HE DPM. We have to get saved by our GK, which thank you, man. But how sad is that? How sad is that? This ship with AP, 7 kilometers, light cruiser Worcester, is just sitting broadside to us. And his HE DPM is more than I can do back to him with my armor piercing. That was so demoralizing to play. I gotta be honest with you guys. That felt so bad. So that's why I've just not used HE. I think this was my first game playing it on stream, something like that. Once the NDA lifted on Monday. And that's why I just did not swap to AP ever again. Maybe it's better. Maybe it is good. Maybe it's better than I think. Maybe I got unlucky. But I mean, I think you can understand why I did not want to shoot AP ever again in this ship afterwards. Thunder here is got some overmatch for us. And, well, this ship is squishy. I blew up a lot. And here's an example. One stray shell hits our stern and overmatches through it into our citadel. Very, very, very common. And that happens whether you're kiting or you're pushing, because it's a very large ship with a big citadel and very easily overmatched. It's a box. It's a brick. It's a brick that doesn't have any armor. It's a Vermont without any armor, basically. It sucks when it comes to survivability. So you need this smoke. And that's probably why it was given this smoke, to survive, right? But the smoke's not always available for you. Your smoke fire is like 7.3 kilometers, which is really good for 203s. But anytime you don't have it, man, it is painful. Dealt some decent damage to DDs in this game. But still, the dispersion every once in a while felt just really off. And I tried it with a full smoke build, which is obviously not using any dispersion. And then I also tried it full dispersion on the 3rd upgrade slot, as well as taking outnumbered and proccing outnumbered to try, just hope for any sort of accuracy. And it helped, but still, there's some wonky dispersion. Notice how long our turrets are taking to rotate here. Atago, we are missing a lot of our salvos into this guy. This was one of the major reasons I found the dispersion so frustrating. And this is one of the first times I noticed how bad our armor is and how big we are. This Atago is gonna smash us with HE. That was 8.7k damage into us. Atago. And yeah, Atago does have some nice guns at tier 8, but that's a tier 8, man. We're doing like 3,000 to 4,000 damage back to him if we hit. A lot of our shells missing. This was poor aim, that one, fair enough. But a lot of his salvos were around 4,000 to 5,000 damage into us rather consistently, just because we're so big and we take so much damage. 3,000 damage there, you know? It didn't feel like I was in a tier 10 fighting against a tier 8 cruiser here. It felt maybe I'm a tier 9, but I don't know, man, it just didn't feel good. Moving on here, dealing with a Holland. Shell arcs are decent, but still, at these ranges, we do have to do a little predicting. He turns in, and therefore we do miss. I thought he was going to turn out because being spotted up against DDs like that, that's where I missed. But now we're going to get some nice hits in, or only 2 shells hit there out of 12. Like, what? We don't have outnumbered procced, but in this game, I'm pretty sure I had accuracy upgrade. I'm going to miss salvos here and there too, right? But still, I really find the dispersion to be quite bad here. Comparing again to Zhao, because as some people in chat thought a decent comparison here was this is a Zhao with a smoke, but worse armor. And I think that is relatively interesting comparison, but Zhao has very, very good dispersion. That's kind of one of the gimmicks of that ship, and that it has closer to destroyer level to dispersion on cruiser guns, and that is a big weakness here. Another few hits, few HE shells from Atago, stray hits, and they just do like 3,000 or 4,000 damage to us. It's a big ship, but hey, we get the Holland there, feels very good. And we do manage to not get one shot by this tangent here. But what I also found is our turrets are essentially made of paper. That's an HE shell from an Atago that just took out our main gun. They just don't have armor either. I found them getting knocked out all the time. And since the only upside, another like 5k hit from that Atago, right? It's so frustrating. All these weaknesses, man. It feels so weak. Armor, guns, turret traverse, turrets are taken out all the time. Takes a ton of damage from everyone. It's not maneuverable. I've ended up running a rudder instead of concealment in our upgrade slot and propulsion mod just to try and get the maneuverability up, and then run a bit more lighthouse to try and maximize our DPM a little bit more. Again, turret taken out. Thunder HE's big, to be fair, but I think the Delny here at the end of this game managed to take out one of my turrets, I'm pretty sure, which is just crazy. Delny HE. Okay, I realize I've been essentially taking a big old dump on this ship for like 16 minutes now, with a few hotspots or high points of that 300k damage game, but this is another really, really good game. I gotta stress that this ship does have weaknesses, but the strengths are here too. This ship can farm a ton of damage, and this smoke just allows you to play in positions that you just couldn't otherwise as a heavy or light cruiser. Doesn't really matter. There's just so much overmatch these days at top tier that you cannot play as aggressively as this ship can with its smoke up. That said, you do need to worry about radars, of course, and your smoke fire distance of 7.3 kilometers, whatever that is, that you get spotted while shooting your guns in smoke. I farmed a lot early game at the A cap, but that's pretty similar to what you've seen already. It was on that Thunderer as well as in Azumo earlier. But here, pushing into the B cap here, the enemy team has taken control of C. We've taken control of A. Now, this game is going to be decided here at the B cap. And we'd have to be pretty terrified to play here, to be honest with you, in a lot of other tier 10 cruisers, just because there's a Preussen with 30 millimeters of overmatch, as well as a Patrie with 30 millimeters of overmatch and even more guns. That's a pretty scary target to deal with. But here we just get to sit in our smoke and farm. And we're at 12 kilometers from this Preussen, and soon to be much closer to the Patrie as he pushes in. Torps are a problem, but we do have a Hydro to deal with them as well. You know, the smoke Hydro combo is very, very nice to have. Here's our outnumbered being procced. I told you I was trying all sorts of different things to make this ship work. That's a triple fire on that Preussen after he's damage controlled. Getting a little greedy there with that shot, trying to aim for his stern, but still, the damage output, very, very nice here. Notice still 700,000 potential damage. Didn't get shot at a lot in this ship, and when I did, I ate a lot of damage. Preussen should go down, so we're deciding to focus on Patrie, which a lot of battleships at tier 10, or at least some of them, have 32 millimeters of armor, and Patrie has it everywhere. French battleships, British battleships, those are the ones you're really going to want to farm, and the damage is going to be kind of nuts here. This outnumbered is a really nice skill to have here, just to guarantee these salvos land on target. And even though I didn't end up going with this build all the time, the full lighthouse was a little bit much to go with, to be honest with you, because then you're spotted from a long ways out, and you got to earlier use your smokes, because again, you're squishy as soon as you're spotted. So if you go full lighthouse, you're going to get shot at a lot sooner, and you're not going to get into as good positions. But if you don't go lighthouse and outnumbered, then you lack dispersion and maybe a bit of DPM. It's a little bit of a weird balancing act. There's that radar from the Moskva. Patrie, though, decides to focus on the Satsuma instead of just killing us, which I will happily take. Look at our damage stacking up here. We started this clip around 120,000 damage, something like that. and we're already nearing 300,000 damage. This was a very fast damage game here, at least towards the end, and that is thanks to a lot of 32 mil armor and a lot of fires. It's fairly consistent in landing those fires, man. It's going to be very frustrating to deal with one of these things in a smoke as a battleship player if you're trying to push in. I already know I'm going to be frustrated fighting this thing and all the fires it's going to land. We get very lucky that Patrine misses us here, but we are going to go down. That's 300,000 damage, though. Another 300,000 damage game. I've only played like 6 games in this ship so far. There it is. Delny taking out our turret. I knew it. I knew that I had that clip in there somewhere. DDHE taking out our turrets, man. That's so sad. But that's 300,000 damage games in 6 games played. I guess 8 games because I had the 2 that I did for the first impressions like I usually do. But that's pretty good, man. That's really good damage. So I'm very conflicted, as you can tell. I got frustrated with this ship thanks to the poor armor and maneuverability and turrets that take forever to turn and that die to destroyer HE can even take them out. Large citadel, overmatch everywhere. HE spam kills us fast. We have low HP pool to start with. No super heal. But I got some really good damage games, right? Like, it's weird. It's really weird. I think this is going to be a hard ship to play, though, at tier 10. I was kind of wondering why the tier 10 felt a little bit worse than the tier 9 or the tier 8. And I think it comes down to just the sheer size of the tier 10. It is so much bigger than the tier 9 and the tier 8. So you just take so much more damage. And those ships have lower HP pools, but not by much, actually. You don't actually gain that much HP going from tier 8 to tier 9 to tier 10. And they all have heals. So I think for tankiness, I think the tier 8 is probably the tankiest relative to its tier out of all of them. And the tier 10 is the squishiest. I haven't played the lower tier ones than that, but tier 8, 9, and 10 certainly felt that way. Now at the end here, I probably have to talk about subs and dealing with them. I'm going to try and kill this sub here. And we're going to struggle. Look at this guy turn. He reacts to our planes coming, and he's just able to turn out of the way. This is going to be the ship that's supposedly the best submarine hunter, and we are going to struggle. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I've already said my piece on subs and carriers over and over again, but what more is there to say? It's not like Wargaming's gonna listen. They obviously don't care, right? Like that's just like the disappointing thing here at the end. I've tried to focus on the ship mostly, but Wargaming doesn't care, man. Like, this game, the development of this game and whether it's in a healthy state or not is not determined by the state of the actual gameplay, the combat, when you click battle. They don't care about that. The only metric really that's used to determine if this game is healthy or not is there new content coming out each month? That's kind of the live service model, right? So how do you measure the health of a live service game? Is it getting consistent updates? If yes, then it's healthy. And that's kind of sad because it feels like they've sacrificed the quality and the amazing surface ship combat that's so unique. No other game has this kind of interesting, I mean, I'll even kind of say it, it's kind of interesting tactical combat where you're rewarded more for your positioning and where you think rather than your reaction time. Like, it's so much different than a Call of Duty, right? Even though it's a very, very arcade game still. You're rewarded not for reacting well and just having these inhuman reaction times. You're rewarded for playing smart and positioning your ship and knowing what the enemy ships have and countering them. And surface ships have that really finely tuned, beautiful interaction between each other. They all are risking their ship to stay in the battle, to stay in the fight, and they're all having strengths and weaknesses over one another. And the gameplay is at least shooting at other surface ships. And that's one of the main weaknesses that carriers and subs have, is you're really not fighting surface ships anymore. You're fighting a UI element when it comes to subs that are almost impossible to spot. This submarine surveillance is kind of trash in my opinion, because anytime a sub is outside of your hydro or their detection range, well, they just stay on the surface, and then you can't use this sub surveillance. I think it needs to act like a radar, honestly. I think for this sub surveillance to be any good, I think it needs to act like a radar. The buff that subs got in maneuverability is so insane. It is so hard to hit subs now, even if you see them. But before, I was able to hit subs much more consistently, even with my ASWs, even into just the splash or the oil spill. Now I just can't. It's so difficult because they see your planes and they can turn out of the way and they're so fast, they just get away. They just can react to your ASWs, which is just insane to me. And this sub surveillance not acting like a radar and spotting them on the surface is ridiculous, frankly. Why should it? Wouldn't it be nice if a DD could just say, oh yeah, I click this F key and I fly over the radar. Oh, haha. Therefore, radar doesn't hit me now, right? Like, that's just not how it works. They've just obviously babied these classes, man. It just does not function. These classes don't work against these surface ships. As a surface ship player, it's just miserable. It's so painful to fight these things. And as the sub or carrier player, I mean, I don't play these classes because I just find them so boring. So in my opinion, it just feels like they've added these classes to the game that take away from the just beautiful surface ship combat, and all they've done is add some really boring, not interesting gameplay that you're just kind of sitting around in your sub waiting to shotgun someone. I'm sitting around in my carrier flying over just to click on his forehead and do some damage. It's not engaging to me. It's just not engaging to me. It doesn't fit the surface ship combat, in my opinion. And it's really sad because the Cerberus is supposed to be the best one at dealing with subs, at least. It's really bad against carriers, but at least against subs. And it's painful to fight subs. It is boring. It's not fun. It's very difficult to hit them. Even if you spot them, they can just react dodge to your ASWs now. So it doesn't even matter. It's ridiculous. I hate talking about carriers and subs because I have literally nothing good to say. It only frustrates me and makes me not want to play this game. And it's really sad because I like this game still. I really like the surface ship combat. I think it's super fun and unique. And that's why I've played it for 8 years. And that's why I'm going to keep playing it, because I still love the surface ship combat. It just sucks that I have to wade through all this crap that they've added to get to that fun surface ship combat. Now, I apologize for ranting so much about this, but every time I talk about it, it's just very frustrating. So, and I have to talk about it here just because this ship is seen, I think, as the best ship at dealing with submarines. And it just sucks at it. It really does. Subs got buffed massively with this maneuverability change. And all we got was a pretty crappy excuse of sub surveillance that doesn't even spot on the surface for some reason. It needs to act like a radar where it just within 8 kilometers here, spot sub. That's it. That's how it needs to function in order for it to be any good at all. And even then, I don't think it counters the balance change where subs got this amazing maneuverability buff. I really don't think it would be enough because it's only an 8 kilometer, 20-second radar, essentially. Imagine overnight, as a destroyer player, we just snapped our fingers and said, yeah, as a DD player, you only need to deal with an 8 kilometer radar that's maximum 20 seconds in duration. That's all you need to deal with as a DD player at tier 10. You'd be laughing. You'd be like, wow, this is so easy now. This is the best thing in the world as a DD player, I'm sure. Because it'd be so simple to play around. Because it lacks any sort of range and duration. But as a sub player, you don't even have to deal with that. Right? You can just surface and it just doesn't even affect you, right? Like, oh my goodness, it's so sad. It's ridiculous when you just really put this into context of what subs have to deal with compared to a DD player at the same tier. It's just pathetic. And they buffed them, man. They buffed them with maneuverability. And I don't know when this video is coming out, because again, I'm pre-making videos because I'm hoping to go snowboarding here soon and trying to get some videos made. So while I'm doing that, I am not putting content out and making $0 as it is, because, you know, bills still need to get paid. But this is coming out probably around the update, maybe a little after the update, where submarines are getting another buff that they said is going to be a nerf. Do I want to get into this? You know what? Screw it. This can be a long video. All right. If you made it this long, thank you. I apologize about ranting so much. You've probably seen all about Cerberus now. I should probably show you the build before I really go into this new buff to subs, but this is what I went with eventually. I found I needed the extra damage because that's all this ship really does, so we want to focus on that as much as we can. I needed some concealment to get within range, even though we do have good firing range. It's going to go to 18 kilometers. That already nerf was applied, at least when I was playing it in battle. It doesn't show in port for some reason, but we need that. You can go outnumbered, but that kind of sacrifices concealment then at that point, and that can be very, very difficult to use, since I think it needs to run steering gears. I mean, without it, you're just such a brick, man. 6.6 second rudder is decent, but as soon as you don't have it, 11 seconds, and you're so slow to accelerate, and you've got this gigantic citadel, right? It maybe doesn't look that huge, but this is a big citadel, man. This is a big ship with a giant citadel. Takes tons of AG damage, and it's not very well armored, right? So 51 mil here. This is why, I mean, I was mid-rant, but that in-comp just, like, overmatched our bow and just easily citadeled us, right? Like, there was just nothing I could do against that in-comp. Same with Thunder earlier in the video, but you overmatch through here, and it's just free. Like, there's nothing protecting this. There's tiny little plates here, but that's just to protect the spaced armor here. That's it. That's not actually any sort of angled plating in the bow. I don't think there's anything in the bow that's like hidden to help you survive, because I usually get more than 1 million potential damage in tier 10 cruisers, and this ship, I was often dead. It's rough, man. It's rough, man. So maybe I need to take survivability expert too, but then we're giving up some damage. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a very, very weird one. And yeah, equipment-wise, I'm still going to stick with steering gears just because I need that extra maneuverability. Otherwise, you die. You just get hit so much with this ship and you die very, very quickly. But that's the Cerberus bit. Let me just... Now, if you're interested... Okay. It's a long video. It's probably too long. I shouldn't do this. But sub buff. Submarines are getting a 15% damage buff to their alternate torps. And some of them are getting a range buff too. And sure, you might say that, oh, that's coming at the cost of 3 kilometers now is where that damage ramping will start, right? Where 2 kilometers, they do 10% damage with their torps. And at 3 kilometers, that'll be 100%. So there'll be some damage ramping there from 2 to 3 kilometers. But let's be honest here. Is anybody shotgunning from 2 kilometers? Are good players who are getting into shotgun range very easily, are they shotgunning from 2 kilometers? Or are they shotgunning you from 2.5, 2.8 kilometers because they know they can dive within a few seconds and get completely undetected, stay completely undetected? Why would they shotgun you from 2 kilometers and get detected there, and then the torps hit, and then they try and dive, but they get detected, and then everybody around you drops their ASWs? Of course not. No, none of the good players and subs do that. All they're going to do is shotgun you starting at 3, 2.5 kilometers, somewhere in there, and then that they're going to use that extra half a kilometer, that 2 kilometer assured spotting distance at tier 10 or whatever, periscope depth like 2.1 or whatever, and they're going to make sure they're underwater by the time they get there so they stay undetected, right? So they're already shotgunning you from around that 3 kilometer range anyway. So is this really going to change things? No, it's just a 15% buff with more incentive to do it properly and not get spotted, man. Like, I feel like I'm going insane, man. Why do they call it a nerf when it's just a buff? Like, it doesn't take much thought to, like, look at how subs are shotgunning. And even if they are shotgunning a little bit closer than 3 kilometers, with a 15% buff on your damage, where's the normal damage that we have now, right? Well, it's around a 15% nerf. You'd have to nerf the new damage by 15% or whatever to get to our current damage level, because it's getting a 15% buff next patch, or the current patch, depending on when this comes out. I'm still playing it's 13.1 right now. Right? So at 2.8 kilometers is when you get the damage, the old damage back, maybe. So is it really a nerf? Is it a nerf? I feel like I'm going insane here. It seems like a buff to me, man. I guess we'll see when we play it, but I'm terrified, man. I hate it so much. And this ship's supposed to be good against it. And this is just like one of the weakest armored ships that has to play further back. And this is the ship that you need to be at your mid to front line to use its sub surveillance. And even then, the sub can just be on the water and just undetected by the sub surveillance anyway. Ah, come on, man. Come on, man. It's so sad. And that's the thing, right? There's that saying, you're preaching to the choir or whatever, right? You guys all know. You all know the problems. You all understand. So I'm not saying this to people who don't understand. You all understand it. For some reason, Wargaming doesn't. And they refuse to listen to the community of players that hate it. It's so baffling to me. I don't know. Maybe the lowered player count, like 5,000 people online on NA right now. Sure, it's, 1:30 here. So in the afternoon. So maybe that's not optimal time, but that is not many players anymore. I mean, I don't want to be a doomer, but like, at what point do we say, hey, maybe we try and make the game fun to play again, and maybe players play it then, and wow, we get engagement. All right, you know what? While we're here, because let's be honest, the only people that are still here are wanting to listen to me ramble and rant about the game. So while we're here, here's one for you. Why are we getting such a generous dockyard? Half the cost, and it includes a tier 7 premium again? That's not in here yet, but you've seen the Wisconsin dockyard dev blog, right? Wisconsin being potentially an insanely accurate battleship, tons of fun looking like, and a West Virginia 44, a fun tier 7 battleship that's included in the pass, and you can get to that one for free, and the whole pass costs you 3,200, right? 3,200 doubloons. What have they done with Wargaming? That's not the greedy company I know, right? Maybe that's overstating it, but it seems like they kind of increase costs and take value away. Isn't that can be said about the battle pass? Certainly, like, this battle pass is a bit of a joke, right? This is a 3,000 doubloon battle pass. This is the same price as getting into the Wisconsin dockyard that also includes this West Virginia 44 that you could also earn for free. It's only the final few phases you need to finish Wisconsin that you have to pay for. Why is that? My only thought is this Creatorverse thing actually brought in enough players that they're going to try and keep them in by offering the most generous battle pass monetization dockyard, which is essentially battle pass. We have 2 battle passes, dockyard and the battle pass. I don't know why we have 2 battle passes, but we do. Just lovely monetization things, I guess. And that's the only thought I can come to, man. I don't know. I don't want to just rant about the negatives of this game, but if we're going to be negative, we're going to be negative at the end of this video. So I apologize. But there you go. That's my thoughts. I really like this game still. Really like this game still. Wait, that's Europe. There we go. I like this game still, man. But if you're going to put in a ship that forces me to talk about subs and the downsides of them, I'm going to get negative. I just got to call it like it is, dude. That is awful. Awful, awful, awful direction this game is going. And since it was said that these are balance changes to nerf subs, and what else was announced? They're going to nerf carriers. I don't know if Wargaming understands the definition of nerf, actually. It seems like they've decided nerf means buff? Make them stronger? I don't know. It's odd because these are 2 nerfs that I think are buffs. I think this maneuverability buff to subs is easily considered a buff by most people, and I think this damage buff to subs is just going to be a damage buff to subs. Right? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. There you go. Rant over. Thanks for watching to the end of this video. I hope you guys are enjoying the game still. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to still keep enjoying the game, but it's hard some days when you got to deal with subs and carriers. I wish Wargaming would listen to the player base, but they just don't. It's sad, but that is the way things are these days, and there's nothing I can do to change it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.